When you watch James writing in the chapter 5, you will say James is out of place. This chapter is out of place because from where James is graduating us from, that we've gone to the school of the hard knot, trying to come out. And yesterday he quizzed our mind how we can dwell and see the chapter 4. Now, after the quizzing, he entered into a zone. So many other commentators have been very confused about whom James is addressing. Is he addressing believers? Because in all his writing to chapter 4, he was addressing believers and those in the institution of the University of the Hard Knocks. Then chapter 5, James began to deal with particular group. And you might think that where is James getting his strength and who is James addressing? I go with John Calvin and others who said in their commentary that James was dealing with the worldly riches. And I agree to that this has nothing to do with believers, but it was only given an assurance unto those that are being oppressed, because most of the Christians at that time, because the scripture when it was written is very necessary to know the kind of a cross section of people living at that time, to know whom James is addressing. So many of them have come out of slavery and have become believers, and some were very poor, very poor. So James is talking to the rich and filthy rich, and he's talking also to the poor and then the filthy poor. Some people, their poverty, you cannot even describe it. And so James is going to address this. But in the way of the 6 verses that James is addressing, if you are not thinking, you might think that James is trying to think about redistribution of wealth, which politicians always think that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting richer, and so let's find a way of redistributing. Nonsense. Redistributing so that give every person the same amount to start. The rich will always be rich. God designed it and you can't do anything about it. So when I hear politicians talking about all the time, knocking and lambasting those that are rich, they are giving businesses out for the poor also to be able to get something to feed the people. But they begin to be as if our wage is against that. So when you read the 6 verses of James, you might think that James is sounding like this Bernie Sanders, American politician who is more socialist than ever. And then he is always talking about redistribution of wealth. And so that is what you might draw up to be. But you see that James is not dealing with that topic until you can. Jesus had already dealt with 3 topics about the rich. The first one, he talked about the rich man and then Lazarus. This was a true story, how it took place and when. Nobody knows it, only Jesus, because he knows everything from the beginning to the end. And he talked about these 2. And I say that the rich man was evil. Why? Because of the judgment. The judgment of God sent him into a place of tormenting. And then the poor man was taken to Abraham's bosom. And we saw what really transpired over there. Because of what really transpired, you can see that that God was only judging the character, not because the man was rich. But you see, he saw to the crumbling of the poor man. The poor man was eating from his table, and the crumbs that fell from his table was that which was feeding. So could he even not discern to know that there was a poor man right sitting in the table? What made him? He crippled, he stole anything, more to that if it's today's language, took up their taxes and took up everything from him so that the poor man can never even do anything. Crippled the economy of this Lazarus. To the Lazarus had to go beg for food and even stay in the front and there. But this man, it never occurred to him. There's another story painted in the second where Jesus talked about the man who gathered so much, and then he felt that he has a future, and therefore he has to break the first barn and build a bigger barn. And Jesus said that when he was thinking that, oh my soul, eat and drink, for tomorrow I am going to do this. So when he said that, he never built that barn, and he died. Why? Because he was a foolish man. He was only thinking about the future. So that was hoarding. So Jesus Christ was against hoarding. And then he talked about the steward that was also unjust, that was also trying to cut deals with other people because he knows that he was going to lose his destiny. And so we saw that Jesus had dealt with certain people that you can understand how riches, you see, how you obtain your riches is very something that you have to be aware as a child of God. And how you spend your money also must be, and then how you accumulate your wealth. How you can or able to think about only tomorrow to spend it, only to watch into your future. I am not saying that don't plan something for your future that tomorrow it will be, but the necessary of accumulating so much that you can only think of, in the future I will never be poor. When I'm old, I will be spending this thing. You have only reduced your mind out from God and thinking that your dependence must be upon what you have. That is where Christ condemns you. If you have that thought, and then the way you trick or you do way to get your money must also be a very questionable thing that you have to always watch out, and how you spend it. If you don't spend it wisely and you don't even consider, you see, when you become selfish, you worship yourself. But when you become almost idolatry, you worship what you have. You see, you either worship what you have or you worship yourself. These are the two condemnations that comes when riches is being paraded over here. So before you get into the 6 verses, I want you to tell you that these people have been oppressed, and they were coming from slavery, and they have become children of God, and therefore they have been crying, and there was that pain in their heart as they served the Lord. So here they are in the church, and James is addressing them, even though it was not a message direct for them because they were not rich. He was telling them that there's going to be a day that God will reckon it. And so giving them the assurance that if they've even taken from you, if they've stolen from you, if they've suppressed you and make you to become an object, don't worry. The day is coming when God will make it plain and then sink that thing very, very deep against whatever that it's happening. Let's now turn onto the verse number 1. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and horror for your miseries that shall come upon you. So now he began to squarely address those that are just suppressing and making people cry and making people not to find their feet. This is what the result that the James is now addressing, the rich. And he's telling them, it's the godless rich. Godless riches are some of the condemnation that James was now saying. Verse number 2 says, your gold and silver is cankered, and the rest of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye shall heap treasure together for the last day. So you can see that James is talking about hoarding, heaping up treasure, thinking about whatever. Sometimes you will see that there are some chances that you could have easily helped, but you're only interested in what will be for your future. And so you don't care what goes on there. You put yourself there. And so you begin to worship yourself. That's selfishness. And here James is talking about your heaping, it's your hoarding. And that is it. James says, do you know how your silver and gold are going to rust? It is because you are going to decay. This is the judgment that comes upon the godless rich. Like the men in the two of the parables Christ gave, death came to both of them, and death certainly separates a rich man from his money. It is said that when one of the Vanderbilts was dying, the family was waiting in an outer room. When the lawyer and the doctor came out, one of the more outspoken members of the family stepped up to the lawyer and asked, how much did he leave? The lawyer replied, he left it all. He didn't take any of it with him. May I say to you that it is the way that it rests that is very important. A gentleman was being shown through the magnificent ground of a rich nobleman estate. And he said to the owner, well, my lord, all these in heaven will be a noble, but this in hell will be terrible. James is condemning the godless rich for hoarding their money. Gold and silver do rust. It's boom today and bust tomorrow. When a man makes $1 million, he is not satisfied with that. He wants to make $2 million. It is like drinking seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you get. The rich keep on making millions, but it doesn't make them any happier. Were you not there when you saw some, I saw, and one Hollywood star, the mansion that he left? This man committed suicide and died. Someone was asking that with all the money that he left in the estate, could that thing never bring happiness to him? He said that in one of his writings, he said that he was lonely. He was lonely, and I could not fathom, how can this man who was throwing parties every weekend, there's some people around him, having, he said, behind all the smile that I give and I make parties for people to stay around me, I was still lonely. I could not believe it. Because if I am trying to make merry and I bring people to my home to eat, I feel their presence so much that I don't think that I can be lonely when I'm having people partying or having some kind of amusement in my home. But yet this man says that he was lonely. He only knows what sort of loneliness that he was bringing upon himself. A lot of people are walking even among their family members, walking even among their children, having 7 children, and when they talk to you, say, Pastor, I am lonely. You have 7 kids. How come that you are lonely? You have a husband. How come that you are lonely? Beloved, This world is a different kind of. I've dealt with people that are rich so much that someone told me one time is that if only this thing will be exchanged for my peace, I will love it. Because everyone who writes to me doesn't care about me. It's only caring about what help I can give to them. But nobody even sinks deeper to know what I'm going through. Sleepless nights and thoughtful everywhere that my mind will carry me to. But when they call me and they write to me, and if I cannot fulfill the obligation, they call me names. And if I have any way, I will give up these riches. I will give up this and try to be very peaceful in my state. How many people have gone through that thing? Now let me move on. It says that verse number 4. Behold, the hire of the laborer who have reaped down your field, which is of you, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and he crieth to them which have reaped, are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabbath. James condemns the godless rich, not only for the hoarding money, but for making it in a dishonest way. They have robbed the poor to get rich. In the parable, the rich man let fall from crumbs for the beggar. What a message is in that. The beggar had been placed at the rich man's gate because the rich man was responsible for him. Proverbs 22 verse 7 says what? The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. God condemns the godless man who makes his money in a dishonest way, especially when it is by putting down the children of God. God may do nothing now, but he is going to judge in the future. If men are making their riches by stepping on the hands and those beneath them, then God will judge that. This should serve as a warning, a word of warning to every man who is trying to become rich. To great corporation, the Labor Union, and also the great church organization, God will judge the way men make their money and the way they spend it. Listen to the verse that follows, verse 5. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth, and being wanton, ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter. What does it mean? The rich were spending their money in a simple manner. The miser says dollars are flat to stack them, but the spendthrift says they are round to roll them. Either way, God says that you are wrong. You are wrong, my friend. Again, let me quote the proverb. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, and has the high walls in his own conceit. Then in Proverbs chapter 28, verse 11 reads, the rich man is wise in his own conceit, but the poor that have understanding searcheth him out. This is the picture of the two godless rich men whom the Lord Jesus told about. Both wanted to live it up. One wanted to store it up now and then, live it up in his old age. The other rich man was living it up at the time while the beggar lays outside his gate. If you have decided to live for this life only, be sure to live it up. But God says you are a fool. That's when God defines you. Now let me move on to the verse number 6. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you. Yes, he will not resist you. God will never resist you. Sometimes he allows this thing for you to do it. And therefore, at the end of the game, God is going to let you stand in the very scale of him and judge you. Beloved, there is a startling statement that I know that one day I will never be there. But if it has been, the word is if, that I would have rather loved to be a poor and be in hell than to be rich and be in hell. But thanks be to God that that's not my destination. Jesus has made it so clear that as a child of God who have confessed him as his Lord, it will be. There are people who are oppressing us. There are people that have made our name soil and smell very bad among some, because some other people feel very rich and they override us, and they will never even make any kind of or allow our opinions to be heard. This is where James began to address the issue that these men who have come to be in the church, come to be among the saints that are going, their future is at stake because they are thinking about where their soul will rest. Beloved, this rich man never thought that he's resting in the Lord. Oh, my soul, eat and drink, and tomorrow I will build you a big barn. And then the night before, he died. The other one saw the one who was eating the crumbs from his table, did nothing about it, kept this man on the gate, that even dogs came in and licked his sore. He had no bandage for this. He had no mercy for this man. And that's what God says, that you heap up money, you begin to have the treasure. Beloved, one thing I have learned from the people that I will always commend and applaud and thank God for Mission One Care and also for covering our saints. Beloved, I have seen the pure heart of people. I have understood the way that the people conduct their business. Selfishness is not worshipped over here. And I've seen how people, right even in the hard way, they struggle. They always have the mind to set and to do good. I can't thank them enough. And if I see this being addressed, it's almost like, am I against the people who are rich? No. But rather commend them that they are doing what God has placed over them. They spend what they have just to make a brother live in luxury, that make a brother also smile. They want to have that could easily make others also feel good, and that is the spirit of the season. And I can only thank them so much only through this medium and tell them that continue in this well doing. Maybe today you might not see it, but as God is going to judge the rich and judge them with severity, the same way God will also find a place for those who use their riches wisely to make people feel comfortable and make people appreciate God. Do you think that it's going to be waste? It's not going to be waste. God is going to reward. God will reward. Today it will be too far away. You might not even benefit it. You might not see it. But I tell you, because you are thinking about a brother or sister to just help the sister out and help a brother out, that they might also reach the ladder and reach the economical ladder by also reaching some place. I say, may God bless you exponentially, that your blessing and your success you've never seen anything. I say, let this be the beginning of your blessing, and may God continue pouring his grace upon you. James was not only condemning those that are rich in the Lord, but he was condemning the godless riches. Then they will see that people will be in abject poverty, cry upon them, and still they will do nothing. May God help us that we will always have the heart to serve and serve faithfully. Amen.